Alright, what up AP US History students? This screencast is to make up for the fact that we do not have live class on Friday, November 20th, as I'm sure you are also devastated. But it is not a class unless we have our joke of the day, so let's get things started. Did you hear about the cannibals who ate a clown? Ooh, that's a dark joke. Well, they said it tasted kind of funny. Hey! Thank you. Now, I can't see all of your faces dying with laughter, but I can only assume that is what's happening. Alright, so let's get started. This lesson is just going to introduce Unit 4, or Historical Period 4. This covers the years 1800 to 1848. You can see the 12 major categories of this unit on your screen right now. We see the rise of political parties. We see regions throughout the United States sort of develop their own cultures and their own interests. Obviously, slavery is a big one there between the South and the North. America becomes bigger on the world stage as we progress. The Industrial Revolution begins, and what's called the Market Revolution, and all these businesses and forms of production spring up and create this whole new kind of different economy that we did not have before this era. Democracy expands. More people gain voting rights, although we're still waiting on women, and we're still obviously waiting on voting rights for people of color. The American culture continues to grow. We have another great awakening. And President Andrew Jackson and federal power is a big section in this unit, as he was an interesting figure in our history. So looking at the key concepts, beginning to develop our modern democracy and celebrating our new culture. These democratic ideals that were developed during the revolutionary period continue to evolve. A participatory democracy is expanded because not only are only property-owning white men allowed to vote, all white men are allowed to vote. So hey, we're getting there. We're still not at the equal voting rights for all, but it's progressing slowly but surely. A new national culture, again, continues to expand. We're now at the year 1800 to 1850, 250 years away from the first settlement in Jamestown. And then these different regions that still exist today in the United States begin to develop their own cultures as well. You could go from Washington, D.C. to the South, to California, to wherever, and there's kind of different cultures across this big country. There's also religious and intellectual movements. Like I mentioned already, there's a second Great Awakening. There's these liberal kind of social arts movements kind of inspired from Europe that make their way over here that we'll talk about in this unit. As I mentioned before, the Industrial Revolution begins in this era, and technology, agriculture, commerce all greatly accelerate the U.S. economy. Also, side note, the Industrial Revolution, super bad time for kids because, they're pretty much like, hey, you can go work for free. And it was not a safe time either. So when you guys complain about having to sit in class, at least you're not sitting in a factory almost losing your arm every day. Also, new transportation systems like the railroad dramatically expand manufacturing and agriculture production. And also this new revolution greatly impacts family life and gender roles. Before this, when people relied on agriculture, family was kind of a unit that all contributed towards one goal. Now you have many of the men, many of the children going up to work for those 6-day work weeks, long hours, and it greatly affects family life, usually not in a good way. Women are beginning to want a more expanded role in society. We'll talk about the Seneca Falls Convention that happened in 1848. That was a very big movement for women's rights. And the economic development, the economic boom of this era also contributes to the expansion of our country. And the next slide is going to look at a map at how much the United States expanded west. Obviously, at this time, most of the West has, it's ending in 1800, most of the West hasn't really been settled yet or made officially a part of the United States, but that's going to change big time. And obviously the Native Americans are getting the raw end of that deal. So with that expansion, and you can look at this map on the right as I talk, and it's a pretty cool map that shows you the expansion of United States property and land. And right now you see the Louisiana Purchase was a big part of that. Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Territory for pretty much nothing, and it gave us a great portion of the United States. The U.S. increases foreign trade. It wants to expand their borders. That they want to get more involved with other countries to promote more economic growth. And again, as they expand west, issues in terms of relationships with Native Americans, I apologize, and the idea of slavery extending into these new territories becomes a point of contention. And again, this unit goes up to 1848, so when we're done, we'll be on the brink of civil war here as that begins in the 1860s. So that's the 4 PowerPoint slides I wanted you to look at. And what I'm going to do now is take you over to what your assignment is that will be due on Tuesday. Okay, so an introduction to Unit 4 Word document here. Pretty much what you see on this document is exactly what I just went over in the PowerPoint slides, and you're going to do some of the work on your own. So for each key concept that I listed there, you have to come up with the significance, the question, and an image. So first of all, let's talk significance. Well, obviously, if it's a key concept, it has some historical significance to U.S. history. So for this first one, a transition to a more participatory democracy through expansion of voting rights. Okay, so at this point, obviously, it's just all white men who can vote. But why is that important that we're expanding voting rights to all white men? Because eventually those voting rights will expand. So talk about the significance of this event. Embracing new national culture and various groups developing distinctive cultures of their own. How is it significant to the development and advancement to America? How does it tie in with today? Whatever significance you can come up with, that's kind of like a wide open prompt there, but as long as you have something that is significant to the U.S. then and now, that'll be good. Next is a question. Obviously, I think you guys have come up with like deep thought, critical thinking questions. Don't be like, was the USA cool? Come up with a good question. For example, for this first one, I can give you a freebie. You could say, what would the United States have been like had they extended voting rights to both men and women at this time? Think about that. Where would we be today had women gotten the right to vote back in 1800 as opposed to 18 was the year. And then finally, an image. If we were in normal school in a normal year, I'd have you draw an image there, but obviously that's not the case. So just get something off the internet, copy and paste it in there, and you're going to have to do this, I think, 8 times. So you have 8 main key concepts you got to do, and you got to do, obviously the significance, question, and image for each. That is all. So that is all you have to do for your asynchronous work for not having live class on Friday. Hopefully this isn't too difficult, and feel free to send me a message if you have any questions about the work. See you Tuesday.